7,000 new cases of coronavirus daily is now reporting a little more than 900 new cases every day. From the past 2 weeks, the virus spread across Germany has dropped significantly. The number of confirmed coronavirus cases in Germany increased by 913 in the last 24 hours, and there are a total of 174,975 people who have been infected with the virus till now. Medical authorities also announced 101 deaths in just the last 24 hours, taking the death toll in Germany to 7,928. There is a huge drop in new COVID-19 cases and deaths across Germany. The reproduction rate of the novel coronavirus has also remained below the key threshold. Experts at the Robert Koch Institute for Disease Control said that the rate of measure was currently at 0.75%, meaning one infected person could pass on the virus to fewer than one other person. 2 days ago, Germany also said that it would end restrictions imposed due to coronavirus pandemic very soon. Interior Minister also confirmed that Germany's aim was to have free travel across Europe by mid-June. As of now, Germany is also prepared to lift border restriction to reach Luxembourg and ease rules at borders with France, Austria and even Switzerland. Germany's economy, meanwhile, has taken a massive backseat due to the lockdown that were imposed to contain the spread of this pandemic. The country's economy contracted by 2.2% in the last quarter, making it the worst result ever since the Great Depression. Economists are also expecting Germany's GDP to shrink even further in the second quarter. Few experts have also predicted a 10% drop in the overall German GDP for the year 2020. Meanwhile, Bundesliga season, which is Germany's top-tier football, will restart from the 16th of May, making it the first major European football league to resume operations amid the coronavirus pandemic. All players have been asked to limit their contact and must avoid pre-match handshakes and post-match celebrations as well. No fans will be allowed to watch any of the matches inside the stadiums, and strict social distancing rules will be in place. However, experts have warned about footballers being at risk of contracting the novel coronavirus. Joining us on this broadcast is Rob Watts, DW correspondent, who is live with us from Berlin. Rob, welcome to Beyond. And, it's great news for sports fans across the world. One of the world's biggest football league, that is the Bundesliga, is going to restart soon. But what are these matches going to look like? Are players not at risk? How will they maintain social distancing while playing the matches? Defending corners and tackles will take place. It's the essential part of football. So aren't players going to be at risk?
It's very difficult to play football without making contact with people, and I think the hope is that the matches can be played largely as normal, with testing being regularly carried out and teams being essentially quarantined as they train, so that none of those players have the coronavirus in the first place to pass on to one another. But there are recommendations. For example, if any of them do have the fortune to score a goal, they're being told, keep the hugs and the high fives to a minimum afterwards. But there are parts of football, as you mentioned, that you can't avoid contact, like tackling, for example. And so that's something that they will have to deal with.
Absolutely. Teams like Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Leipzig, they are famous all over the world, and sports fans will be glued to their television sets because they'll be watching some of their favorite players in action. But it's all about the fans, isn't it? And fans will not be allowed inside the stadiums. But what's going to stop fans from assembling outside the stadiums when their teams are reaching the stadiums and going out? You mentioned players have been advised not to celebrate, but when Lewandowski scores a winning goal, then who is going to stop him?
Yeah, exactly. What's his to stop fans from going to the stadium? Well, other than government advice and advice from police, nothing. They're very much hoping that people will just behave. These matches are being played to empty stadiums. That's only happened once in recent history, and that was actually just back in March, just before the lockdown kicked in. It was a match between Mönchengladbach and Cologne, and there was this mass gathering of fans outside. So the authorities are desperate to not have that happen again. They're telling fans that they must stay at home, and these matches, a lot of them you will be able to watch on TV, some of them on free television, so they're hoping that the fans don't spoil it, because clubs have said they will be willing to stop games if there are too many people outside of them.
Absolutely. Even in South Korea, they experimented with no fans inside the stadium as they started their baseball league, and we are hoping that the restart of Bundesliga can serve as a blueprint for other leagues around the world to follow, isn't it?
Yes, other leagues will be watching closely. Other major leagues in Europe, for example, the Premier League in the United Kingdom, the La Liga in Italy, Serie A in Spain, they're all hoping to get started in about a month's time. For some of them, that might be quite optimistic, but they'll be watching to see how it goes with the Bundesliga, whether it is possible to start a major soccer league successfully and safely, because we don't know for a fact that this is all going to work out. There have been hiccups already. For example, 2 players for the club Dynamo Dresden last week tested positive for coronavirus. They're in the 2nd division, so not the top division, the 2nd Bundesliga. But the entire team had to be quarantined, and their match was postponed. So there have been hiccups. People will be watching to see what happens over the coming month, and whether or not there are more of those hiccups. And many people, sports fans around Europe and around the world, will be hoping that there aren't.
Absolutely. It's a big challenge that the German authorities have taken upon their shoulders to restart one of the world's biggest football leagues. And, there can be many roadblocks. What if a player tests positive after playing a match? Then the players that played with him, will those 2 teams be then forced to sit out of the remainder of the tournament? Well, such questions remain, and we'll see how the German authorities answer them. But let's shift our focus to the German economy as well, one of the most robust economies in Europe, and it has shrunk by more than 2% in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's right, down by 2.2%. And I don't think anyone is surprised to see that the German economy did shrink during that period. The coronavirus has taken a huge toll on the economy of much of Europe. I mean, that 2.2% compares, I suppose, well with some neighbours. The likes of France, Italy, Spain have seen drops in their GDP of around 5% over that period. But the German Statistics Agency has also revised down Germany's GDP growth for the last quarter of last year. They've revised it down to minus 0.1. So that means Germany has now had 2 consecutive quarters of economic shrinkage, which is what we call a technical recession. So Germany is in recession. This minus 2.2% for the quarter that we've just had, mostly reflects damage done just in March. During January and February, the German economy weathered what was going on pretty well. So if it's had that effect in March, the effect that it's going to have in April, May and June is also likely to be profound, and I would expect an even deeper drop in GDP for the current quarter.
Absolutely. Europe largely depends, or a major chunk of European economy is the travel industry, and we are learning that European leaders are attempting to salvage the summer tourism season with relaxing some border controls. We are learning that Germany is also relaxing border controls with countries like Austria, France, Switzerland. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that's right. I mean, the hope is that people will get a summer holiday at some point this year. Now, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on, Germany has just loosened its restrictions on travel to Switzerland, to Austria. It's been speaking to France. The aim is that by mid-June, so the middle of this month, that things can be more or less moving back to normal within the EU. And that will be a huge boost to the tourism sector, a big boost to travel. But you've got to bear in mind that there are a lot of questions still to be answered about how on earth people get in on a plane after this. How do you socially distance on a plane? Because those recommendations to not get too close to one another are likely to last for many more months.
Rob Watts, thank you so much for joining us from DW News with all the updates. German Bundesliga is about to start, and fans all over the world will be glued to their television sets.